Good morning and a very warm welcome to another episode of Who's Tom and Dick. I'm your host, Patrick Mortimer, and today we're going to continue to reminisce about my old mate Martin, co-host of Who's Tom and Dick. How can we do this? Well, I thought, why don't we invite back our very first guest? He was a really good friend with Martin over the years and has some great stories to tell. Andy joined us on Tom and Dick nearly 2.5 years ago to talk about his cardiac arrest. But today he's going to tell us all about his memories with Martin. So I'd like you to join us and welcome Andy Reid. Good morning, Andy, and welcome once again back to Who's Tom and Dick.
Morning, Patrick. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Welcome
Good.
to Who's Tom and Dick again.
Good.
Just over 2.5 years since we last
2.5
spoke
years,
on this podcast.
Blimey.
Believe it or not, to this day, 1 year ago, Martin and myself were staying in a hotel in Aylesbury and about to embark on an interview with Sir David Jason. So it's quite a significant day for us today. So you're in good company.
That's the only time that I think I'll be mentioned in the same sentence as David Jason.
David Jason. We're going to talk about Martin today and your relationship. What's your earliest memory of Martin?
I think there's quite a few. I suppose if I think back, it's probably him playing as a goalkeeper when he was probably 17, 18.
Yeah.
In local youth football, and he was very, very good.
Yeah.
Then there's a healthy gap till up about 40 odd years, up until a few years ago when I met up with him again after he contacted me about Sudbury Sporting Memories.
Right.
And loads of great memories in the last 4 years with Martin.
Yeah.
Number of phone calls, seeing him perform at the Christmas party.
Yeah.
With his brother a couple of years ago. That was welcomed and really enjoyed by everybody because they knew Martin was a good performer. Seeing him at Ipswich Town, which I think might have been his second team.
I think it was his second team. He'd never really admit it,
No.
but it was his second team, apart from when Arsenal played them.
Yeah, apart from that, and I know when he went round Portman Road, he had me continuing talking about 1978.
Yeah.
And the FA Cup final, and that niggled him a bit, I think. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, it was all taken. It was all taken as it always is with Martin, with good humour and a laugh on his face, and that's what Martin was all about. He was a guy that wanted to see people smile, and that's something that's really important to me.
I believe your mum and Martin's mum were of a similar age and lived in the same village.
Yeah, amazingly, when Martin and me were chatting one day, he said that his mum would have been 100 that year. I think it might have been around about the same month, but that would have been 2023. And it suddenly occurred to me a couple of minutes later that Mum would have been 100 in 2023. And I knew that Mum knew his mum, but both Martin and me, when we talked about our mums, where they grew up, we always said they grew up in Bure St Mary, as opposed to just Bures, which is probably a little bit unusual, but we probably got that from our mums because they both grew up in Bure St Mary. Yeah. So they were both the same age. Yeah. They'd have gone to school together, probably played together, and that was probably another thing that gave us a good talking point and sort of renewing a friendship that we had.
How do you think the village would have described Martin in his younger years? Interesting one, that.
Yeah, especially with Bures. Well, I expect somebody would have been able to say he's a rumman.
Yeah.
I can hear that being said.
Good old Suffolk word.
Good old Suffolk word. Good old Suffolk boy, because Bure St Mary is the right side of the river. No, how would he have been remembered? A bit of a lad, I should think.
Yeah.
And good fun, because only the other day one of the guys we worked with was telling me, although he's 20 years older than Martin, what great fun he was. Yeah. They were working on a building site just outside Bures, and they forgot something that was back in the yard. And so Charlie Sargent told me that Martin offered to go back to the yard and pick up what they needed. I think it might have been some lead flashing, something like that.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, he said Martin was wearing the skimpiest pair of shorts you could find.
Yeah.
Pair of shoes or pair of trainers. Went back to the yard, And Pilgrim, who owned the business, gave him a right dressing down, apparently, when he got back there for coming back through the village without a shirt on.
Right.
But I can sort of picture Martin in, just a pair of shorts and skinny shorts like that they were in the 70s. And
Yeah. So you didn't really have a relationship with him in those years, but you just knew him and as a friend.
I knew him. I mean, socially, we were out drinking. We'd probably end up having a chat to each other.
Yeah.
We knew each other, and another coincidence that came out at that time was, a few years ago when I was chatting to him, was that he said, I said, did you know a couple of people in Billers that live near the bridge? He said, tell me. So I told him, and it was Edna and Ted Isles. He said, Ted Isles? He said, I bought my first car off him.
Yeah.
Well, Ted's wife was my mum's cousin, my second cousin. And he went in to describe the car, and I can remember it. So he was one of those people that I guess, same age, he was always around, I was around, we mixed in the same groups, and we knew each other, but I didn't know him anywhere near as well as I've known him the last 4 years, where we pick up the phone, have a chat occasionally. And
I think he had quite good ambitions of being a goalkeeper, because he always falls back to that old story. I know a few of his mates remember him as a goalkeeper. I'm not quite sure how good he was, because I never ever saw him, but to Martin, he was good.
Well, he was good, and he was Sudbury Town, as they were then, before they morphed into AFC Sudbury. Sudbury Town in the mid to late 70s, had a really good youth team.
Yeah.
And Martin was part of that scene. I played in that youth team, probably because I was the only person that could play left back. But Martin didn't get a game because he was unlucky, because he was a very good goalkeeper, but he didn't get a game because there was a lad called Kevin Webber, who was a local boy who was on Ipswich Town's books, and Kevin played every game. But I mean, if it hadn't been for the fact that he got an exceptionally good goalkeeper above him, Martin would have been playing each week. He was a good goalkeeper. More your Tommy Lawrence style for people that understand old English football, 1970s football, probably more your Tommy Lawrence than your Peter Bonetti.
Yeah.
Good solid keeper.
Martin had a number of jobs, mainly in the building trade. So he worked for Pilgrim Builders in Billers. That was where I think he served his apprenticeship. So he's got a lot of friends in the construction industry. And when we announced our celebration of Martin's life on the 14th of February this year, I was contacted by several of those, want to know the details and want to adapt. So I think that's going to be a very big occasion. When you think of him now, obviously 40 years passed and your paths never crossed, and then suddenly he comes back into your life. How did that happen?
It happened when he picked up on, I think it was Suffolk, BBC Suffolk. I was talking about starting Sporting Memories in Sudbury, and whether he recognised the name or whether he recognised the voice or not, I can't remember. But just after that, he reached out to me. I can't remember how he reached out and how we got the contact, but we made contact again. And to be honest, we just laughed about it and said, it's as though this was back when we were 17, 18-year-olds. I mean, he hadn't changed in the slightest. I think I probably had, but I got a lot more confident. But he hadn't, from my recollection, he hadn't changed at all.
Really?
We hit it off straight away. And I mean, I remember one of the first things he was talking to me about the building industry was he was working in Sudbury, and I think it was in Friar Street in Sudbury, and he was up a ladder, and he came down the ladder. And who should be just walking past the bottom of the ladder but Sir Alf Ramsey?
Really? Oh no, here we go.
And so he started off telling me about how he crashed into Sir Alf Ramsey, because Martin did have an ability to crash into celebrities.
He was often accused of celebrity stalking.
Yeah. But I don't think I think this was more Alf Ramsey stalking him when he was up a ladder.
Right.
Whether Martin had those shorts on or not, I don't know. But
I wouldn't have been surprised if he'd have said to him, "I'm a goalkeeper, if you want to trial me."
I can hear him saying that, and I don't know when Alf Ramsey was knighted, but if he was a sir then, I bet Martin didn't say sir. I bet he said, Alf.
Oh, he's very good with Sir David Jason. He didn't make a fluff right until the end, and then he called him Sir Dell. So Martin was quite a slim, quite good-looking fella in those days. And
what you're saying is he wasn't more recent?
Well, no, but I'm just imagining him as a goalkeeper today. He loves his sport,
Yeah,
football and cricket.
Yeah.
Do you know much about his cricket?
I know he played for the Institute Club in Sudbury, so I've heard a few stories about him playing.
Right.
I think this was probably about 30 years ago that he played for the Institute Club. And people have said to him in the last few months that he's a very good cricketer, very good batsman, very good bowler. And unsurprisingly, they said two people I spoke to said batsmen and bowlers, but then they dropped in and said he's a very good wicket keeper. Well, that didn't surprise me because most good goalkeepers are going to be good wicket keepers.
Yeah.
But I think he had a real passion for cricket and enjoyed it. And I often used to wonder whether he enjoyed playing cricket more than football. I must admit.
I think towards the end, he still played a bit of cricket right up to a couple of years ago. Not a full game, but I know Johnny, his son, put on this charity event every year, and I think he done a little bit of batting and fielding in that. So he was always keen to get involved. The trouble with Martin is his mind said he could do everything, but his body couldn't towards the end.
Yeah, that's what it's all, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So
I think he played cricket with a guy called Michael Harding Payne, who used to come to Sporting Memories as well. Him and Michael really used to enjoy each other's company.
Yes.
Michael worked for a local builders. I think Michael worked for Mills. I don't know, Martin perhaps worked with him as well. Could well have done.
Very possibly, yeah. So you got caught up after 40 years and he joined Sporting Memories. He's a larger-than-life character, wasn't he? Some people take it in different ways. How did you take that?
Well, I just thought it was Martin.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we're all ourselves, and we can all have opinions, but we're all different. And Martin's just Martin, and he's a larger-than-life character. He's larger than life, but predominantly, I always used to think behind it was Martin enjoyed being an entertainer. He enjoyed seeing people have a smile on their face, and he reflected that because it's very rarely you didn't see him with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
Even in the last few years when he had every right, perhaps not to be smiling, but he'd smile. It wasn't a smirky smile. It was a genuine smile.
Yeah.
Pleased to be here. And I mean, I've had lots of feedback from people in the last week or so of, he enhanced their life. He made them feel better. He had a laugh and a joke. And he took it in the way it was meant.
Yeah. Yeah, he had this ability to make even the quietest person talk, if you know what I mean. He'd come up to them and talk to them. Before you knew it, he was in a real conversation with them.
Yeah, he was.
I know he was well liked by many down there.
I think he's well liked by all of them down there, but I think some of them perhaps felt a little bit intimidated by, the larger-than-life character.
He's extrovert.
Oh, yeah.
A real extrovert, yeah. Did you grow up in Bewers then?
No. My mum grew up in Bewers, and then mum moved to Sudbury, and I'm Sudbury born and bred, so I can't remember, but I'm guessing in local football I played for Sudbury teams by the time I was about 10, and we played Bewers, so I'm sure I'd actually got to know Martin probably when Martin was quite a bit younger than what I remember, but you don't. So when you're playing football with 10, 12, 13-year-olds, you just tend to remember the score and the battle against the local village or whatever, but it was sort of like 16, 17 when I got to know him. But no, I grew up in Sudbury, and Martin would have spent his sort of social time, I guess, being in Bewers, probably split between Sudbury and Colchester.
Yeah.
And I know he really used to go to Colchester because he used to meet quite a lot of the Colchester footballers in the local clubs after the games, because certainly the Colchester players had I don't think they mind me saying this, had a pretty strong drinking culture.
Yeah.
I think Martin used to enjoy catching up with them, and including, I remember him telling me about Roy McDonough, who was a man that got the most red cards, I think it was, in the lower divisions of the English football. And Martin knew Roy and Steve Dowman and Steve Wright, Colchester players around that time. So I think he really used to enjoy that environment. Perhaps that's what got him into the environment of enjoying meeting some of these personalities who were footballers.
Yeah. He always enjoyed stalking the personalities. I mean, every time we were out, he'd managed to bump into one. I mean, I didn't know who they were. So they were so obscure, some of these personalities, but he spotted them straight away.
Yeah.
Is there a side of him that you saw that you don't think people saw? You know, because although he was very bubbly, bright and cheerful whenever you saw him, during his cancer, he went into some very dark times at stages, but he never really showed it to me. He talked to me about it, but he never, you know, I know he was going through a bit of a dark spell at once, but he kept his positive mental attitude going.
Yeah, I think the time that always I remember was taking a book that was signed by an ex-Arsenal coach, Roy Massey, over to him at West Suffolk Hospital, and I went into a side room where he was, and it was out of visiting times, and I said to Martin, I need to go now after about 20 minutes. And he said, no, you can stay a bit longer. And I never saw him face to face as somebody that felt low or looked low. But I remember on that occasion, he was so keen for me to chat.
Yeah.
And I can chat, but my goodness, Martin can chat.
Yeah, good.
And so, you know, we just chatted, and I always felt very guilty when I left, because the nurses said, just drop it off. And I did just drop it off, but I stayed there quite a lot longer.
Yeah.
And I stayed because Martin I could see was really keen just to have some company.
Yeah.
So I guess that, I mean, whether he hid it well, I don't know, or whether it's just his personality that, you know, he didn't show that emotion, and was able to show the bright side.
Yeah.
But no, I never really saw him and felt he was acting as though he was down or he was depressed. But underneath it, I think I knew he probably was.
Yeah. There was only a couple of occasions that he contacted me when he was in hospital and said, I don't really feel up to it today. And that was very rare, because normally, you know, he'd brighten up when I said, oh, I'll pop in and see you today if you're up for it. Right. Oh, yeah. You can get here. They don't normally let you in till 2, but if you get here a bit early, it won't matter. Yeah. You know, so he was really, really keen. And as you say, you felt guilty leaving him there, but he was always cheerful. You know, when you left, yep, cheers, see you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You know, yeah, that was...
which helps.
Listeners might have seen the way you just put your hand up and said, but there was always that physical seer and the hand movement towards you that was like a bit like a warm handshake, I suppose, in some ways, of, see you, buddy. You know.
Well, his team this year seem to be doing pretty well. I'm still not convinced that Arsenal will win the Premiership, because I don't know whether they've got the staying power for the last few games. But it would be great for them to do it, but it's sad that Martin won't see it.
It will be, but I think when I think they will do that. I think the trophy will come south this year.
You do.
But you know, what do I know? Because, you know, anything can happen, as we know in football. But if it does come south this year, away from the north and Liverpool and Manchester, wouldn't it be great? Because there'd be, you know, remembering Martin on the 14th and celebrating his life. I've got a feeling his family will celebrate, and a few others will raise a glass to him if Arsenal do win it, and say, you know, that's one for you, Martin.
Yeah.
He would certainly be chuffed to bits, and you know, whether you look down or look up or still know what's going on when you move on from this world, I've no idea. But if you do, I've got a funny feeling he'll be, go on boys, he'll be chuffed to bits.
Yeah. He told me once that he felt intimidated sometimes when he had to wear his mask, you know, because he didn't want to catch germs. And he came down to Sport Memories with his mask on, and he got a funny look from one or two people, but generally most people accepted it because they knew what he was going through. He didn't want to ever upset anybody. He always had that approach. And he said to me one day, he said, I want to wear my mask. He said, but I don't want to upset anybody. And I said, well, you're not upsetting anybody. So he was always thinking about others. When he joined Sport Memories then, Andy, you invited him down, didn't you, to give a talk?
Yeah, I invited him down to have a chat. And I mean, I do remember the mask and how he felt with that. And I remember for a few weeks, I put a mask on, and sometimes he was there and sometimes he wasn't. I must admit, I didn't keep it on for the whole session, but there was one other lady that wore a mask as well, and
Yeah.
I think Martin wearing it actually helped her to wear the mask.
Right.
And I thought if I just say it's okay to wear a mask standing at the front, that might help.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember that, and I really remember the fact as well that he didn't want to upset anybody, and if he did upset somebody, he took that really to heart.
Yeah.
I think that showed the genuineness of the guy.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know, because a lot of people say, "Oh, that hurt," and you think, "Did it?" But with Martin, you could see that he didn't want to upset anybody, and I think he sort of set out to enjoy each day. And when I invited him down to have a talk to everybody, I remember he brought along some memorabilia that he'd had signed by different
That's right.
people, and my goodness, was it random?
Yeah.
Whether it be boxing gloves. I'm going from memory here, by Chris Eubank, whether it be a goalkeeper's glove.
Yeah.
And I think there was just one glove he had because the other glove was given to somebody else. But they all had a story. They all had a story with them.
Yeah.
And I think the one that made me most surprised, I can't remember which boxer it was. It might have been Bruno. I can't remember. But he said he got up early one morning to go down to some obscure place in Essex because he knew that they were there to see him as they might have been coming out of a hotel or something.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, that's obsessive.
Obsessive.
You know, that's obsessive. But that shows that, I mean, I said to him, "Do you collect celebrities?" Because I think he probably felt he did collect celebrities. We're all different with this, and he genuinely enjoyed collecting and seeing some of the memorabilia that he got. I mean, as a kid, I just used to write off to the football clubs and say, "Any chance of a signed photograph?"
Yeah.
Sometimes it would come back as a duplicated copy. Other times it came back as a genuine copy, and I was chuffed to bits with that. But Martin certainly took it a stage or two further.
I think Martin liked to get the celebrities autographed personally and get a selfie. He's got hundreds of selfies besides celebrities, and they're all look happy. I don't know whether they are, but they all look happy. But Linny will back this up. Whenever we went to a show, he couldn't leave at the end without going to the stage door and waiting for the celebrity to come out so he could get their autograph and have it. And he'd talk to those celebrities as if they were mates. "Oh, hello. How are you? That was a great show. And could I have a photo?" It was so funny because he was almost directing them. No, come stand over here. That's too bright there. Let's do this photograph here. And he just had this natural way with them, you know, and I was sitting there thinking, you know, I'll just say, "Can I have an autograph, please?" But no, he said, "Come over here. Let's stand by this." And, you know, that was so funny to watch. And they did it exactly as they were told. There was never no...
So what was your favourite picture of Martin with a celebrity? Because I remember looking at some when they were shared the other day, and there's some cracking photos there.
There is some good ones. Thinking back, I think Harry Hill.
Yeah, I was thinking Harry Hill.
He was such a nice guy. I mean, all the celebrities have been really well that we've interviewed. You know, I can't say that enough. But Harry, we had a interview planned with him at Battersea Power Station Cafe, and Martin became ill and couldn't do it. And out of the blue, this video was sent to me on my phone, and it was Harry. We cancelled the appointment, obviously. A couple of days later, Harry sent me this really good get well message, and I sent it on to Martin, and it really bucked him up. And when we met him in Bury St Edmunds, of all places, because he was performing at the Theatre Royal, and we met him in his hotel, he couldn't have been nicer. He was a lovely chap, and he phoned me recently to pass on his condolences. So he is the most genuine celebrity we've met, without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. That is, you know, he really cared. So that one would be mine.
Yeah, I think the one that was a bit of a David Jason was. You looked at that and thought, wow.
David Jason was Martin's first choice.
Yeah.
Simply because we all grew up with Del Boy, didn't we? And A Touch of Frost. And I mean, he's such a talented actor. And he was so generous with his time. He bought us tea. in the hotel. He sorted out the hotel and everything. We went there and we sat with him for 2 hours. And it wasn't until Martin said, well, we've really kept you long enough, Sir David. Felt feeling guilty. He weren't pushing to go or anything. And his dear lady wife was there as well, and made us very, very welcome. And as I say, it was a year today that we did that interview, and we both came back from Aylesbury, 2-hour journey back in the car, and we didn't stop talking about that interview from the moment we left to the moment we got home. It was just surreal, So he's got a lot of bucket list items ticked off. Really ticked off.
I should imagine it was interesting when he saw Lee Mack in terms of, Lee's obviously hyperactive.
He is.
Martin's got a bit of hyperactivity about him in terms of being all on the go, and I think it'd be quite interesting to see Martin trying to orchestrate a selfie with Lee Mack and them arguing between themselves as to how it was going to be taken.
That was a tricky episode to edit, I have to say, because there was a lot of banter going on all the time. And we had intended together to go on to the 1% Club. But obviously, sadly, that won't happen now. But, that again was another good interview. Jimmy Tarbuck, all these, which were megastars in their day, gave their time without any problem at all, and were happy to be there, weren't pushed at all, pushed away at all, or they didn't not want to answer any questions. And Martin was in his element every time we met a celebrity.
Oh, it's fantastic that Martin had that experience over the last few years. I'm sure that the memories, because memories are so important with this. The memories of those interviews for him, especially when you're lying in hospital, and it'd have been going through his mind. There wouldn't just be the family stuff. There wouldn't just be the football and cricket stuff that he'd have been thinking about. He'd have been thinking about those times that, as you say, bucket list. He met so and so, and they said this, and he'd have a little chuckle to himself. And,
memories are so important, but they can also be quite painful, I think, because you look back on them and think, God, over the days, don't you? And sometimes you live in the past and wish you could relive those sort of things, but they're nice things to have to look back on. And I'm sure that Martin, I know Martin didn't expect to meet all those celebrities and get to interview these people. Well, especially, and he felt a celebrity himself in their company.
Yeah, especially in 2025, 26 as we are now, but to have the selfies, and for the last however many years been able to do a selfie, because as kids we did autographs, and I often think, I could have had a selfie with so-and-so and a selfie with so-and-so. I'm sure I'd have ended up losing them at that stage, but with phones now we can keep those memories and flick back through them and look at them, and that'd have been really, really important to Martin.
So, sort of to sum up, then, what one thing would you remember about Martin that cements him in your memory?
Colourful, smile, Arsenal shirt on, trainers.
Dress sense, I thought you were going to say there for a minute.
Well, I can't see. I wouldn't say his dress sense was perhaps the smartest, but we all have a dress sense that suits the personality. And
exactly.
Martin's dress sense definitely suited the personality. And even going back to the masks, I mean, who could have a mask with a massive mouth on it that didn't feel embarrassed about walking around, and just enjoyed having this awful mask. But what it did was it made people smile, and it made people smile. And one of the things that I said in that first interview that we did, that the things that I live for now are smiling faces, green trees, blue skies, and family and friends. And Martin was certainly a friend, and he certainly made me smile. And it's just a pity that he had to wear that Arsenal shirt and not an Ipswich Town one, because I think he was an Ipswich Town closet supporter, and I'm sure he jumped up and down when Ipswich scored.
I mean, he went to the Ipswich game and almost jumped over the barrier because he knew the linesman. Because obviously, we all know
that picture.
We all know he was a referee at some stage.
Yeah.
And
I remember seeing Martin post a picture of the linesman. I thought, here we go. I know somebody else.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
He had this real ability, though, to spot a celebrity. He spotted two in the Royal Marsden that he couldn't, well, he told me who they were, and he was going to tap them up and see if they wanted to come on the podcast, but he never saw them again. But he never promoted or said who they were publicly because obviously they were receiving treatment. So he had that.
There was a discretion there,
as well.
There was a discretion there.
But and funnily enough, I went up to the Royal Marsden with him to keep him company one day, and we sat. We come out the Royal Marsden, and there's a nice little bar opposite, so we sat outside because it was a lovely summer's day, drinking, and we together, after we talked about celebrities and things for years. We always had this thing where we spotted lookalike celebrities, and as people walked by, we used to say, "Oh, there's Harry Hill," a bald bloke walks past, and sometimes those lookalikes were really stretching it, and we had a right laugh over that sort of thing, So we always had good times when we were together.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that Martin's left the world in a better place from being in the world. And that's got to be a big tick in a box for him, because he liked people.
What do you think about him sharing his cancer journey on Facebook? He's quite open and broadcast every move he made, every treatment he had. What do you think about that? Because some people were uncomfortable with it, and some people drew from that for their own benefits.
I think he was very brave in doing it, but I don't think that he necessarily thought about being brave. I think, again, that was his choice, and that was just him. And we all have those choices. Would I have done it? No, but we're all different. And I take my hat off to Martin for doing it, because I think that for a lot of people living with long-term illness, that certain illnesses are hidden, mental health being one, and back when me and Martin were kids, mental health was hidden under the carpet. Now it's not, it's talked about. With cancer, people often still say the C word. It's so-and-so's have cancer, don't they? Where others, openly talking about it. I mean, it mustn't be seen like a trophy. It must be seen as something that somebody lives with. And I think Martin has helped people live with that. He's become more open about it, and some of the conversations that have been had with other illnesses that people are living with, I think have probably helped the cancer patients as well, because there's often this feeling that there's always somebody out there that's worse off than we are. So I think that's probably helped him. It's definitely helped others.
When you see the reaction on his Facebook page, the number of messages, the influx of messages, shall I say, hundreds and hundreds of messages from all over the world, I might add. His reason for doing it was to let his friends, family and fans, because he did have fans, know what he was doing and going through and his progress. He couldn't text everybody and let everybody know personally. So he did it for them, and he also did it for people in a similar situation to him, trying to promote a positive mental attitude, trying to give them encouragement to push forward with their treatments, because it is hard. I mean, it's hard for Martin, don't get me wrong. It was very hard for Martin at times, I saw it. But he had an attitude and a state of mind that he knew exactly how to deal with it. The podcast certainly helped, because a couple of times when he got his diagnosis, he went down naturally, because he would do. You're doing so well and suddenly getting a knock, and he'd feel down for a couple of hours, and then he'd remember what he said to everybody else. And his favourite saying was, turn that frown upside down. Positive mental attitude. So the podcast helped him as well. So he was doing it for him and others, and he always said to me, if one person gets something out of this and it helps them, then that's worthwhile. So it shows you what sort of character he was.
Yeah, I think the one frown, turn it upside down was a brilliant way of remembering a jolly good bloke.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks, Andy, for coming onto Who's Tom and Dick this morning. That's been really appreciated. Martin would certainly appreciate it, and he'd have loved to listen to this conversation. Thanks for today.
Cheers, Patrick. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Love to, Martin.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week, and I've got Johnny, Martin's son, coming on to the podcast next week. So that will be a very interesting one to listen to, and he'll give us all his memories about Martin. Take care, everybody. Thanks a lot. Bye.
You've been listening to the Who's Tom and Dick podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite streaming platform. New episodes are available every Friday. Thanks for tuning in.
Together, they cherish it all. Tom and Dick, in a world so grand. You know they got each other's